after when you edit this pod, don't send me nasty grams about stop talking over everybody. Jen, you really have to stop talking all over
I've
everybody.
never said that.
No, but you haven't, but I can just feel it.
No, you don't talk. When we first started the podcast, we had an issue of all of us talking over everybody. And now everybody, we got into a groove where now I'm the only one that talks over everybody. But that's okay. It's my podcast.
That's true.
Now we just got to get Jordan to talk.
That's when Harry really pipes up, is when he sees me about to say something.
Yes. Yeah. I see him just about to talk. And then I'm like, well, and one more thing. Oh boy. I love Jen's passive aggressive text too. I was like, can somebody explain to me about this, that why Boston has 53 weeks versus we've previously mentioned that this year many, many times. It's been part of a lot of the discourse around this course. In other words, you haven't been paying attention, Harry.
No, your Harry, your tone was.
Yeah, I text. I'm bad at relaying tone over text.
Well,
Like,
everybody is, but
yeah, it always looks accusatory, and it's like, no, I just really just have a question. Why is Boston not on a calendar year?
They are, but theirs is just slightly different, I guess. It's weird. Like
They have
the
a,
year. It's
you
weird.
know, they had 53 weeks last year, and then they have a normal year this year.
Yeah, I don't know why. And also, of course, that's the relatedly, but not, there's the comparable weeks issue, which like July 4th was a headwind last quarter, and now it's a tailwind this quarter, I think. No,
Yeah.
that was reversed. July 4th is a headwind this quarter, and it was a tailwind last quarter. So they have to do things on a comparable basis, these last two, to smooth it out.
I got you.
So it's all timing.
It's just then, though, I feel like.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Because to Harry's point, like they are on a fiscal year, but it doesn't always start at the same time. And you would think that would be the case for the other brewers too. So I don't know why that is.
Huh. I've never heard of that in all these years. I've never heard of, yeah. Why don't we just talk about Boston then?
Why don't
And
we?
welcome to Beer Net Radio, everybody, the podcast where all your dreams come true. This is the Wednesday Warehouse segment, recorded on Friday, posted on Saturday.
Set the bar high, Harry.
We're getting further and further. We're going to be Wednesday Warehouse, recorded on the next Tuesday.
And posted on the following Tuesday.
Tuesday, right.
Our calendar's like Boston's.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks to me like they're sandbagging. When I say sandbagging, they have lowered their, what's it called?
Guidance.
Thank you.
Softened it, yeah.
They've softened their guidance, and their stock has taken a hit. It's down like 10% today. But that's fine because they probably get paid on end of the year stock. And then when they beat their guidance, the stock will shoot back up. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. It's getting, I'm no analyst, but I thought it was overall a good quarter, right? They did better than last quarter, and you're seeing some green shoots for the brands that had a tougher time. And then the stock, and the margins look a little bit better. And I didn't see any big surprises. I mean, I guess they didn't love the softened guidance, but you've got, more conservatism, and you've got a new CFO too. That might have something to do with it. So I can never guess how these stocks are going to react these days, unless it's like obviously a terrible quarter or a fantastic quarter,
right.
I think Jim and, speeches giving before this quarter, he had kind of mentioned that they were hitting an inflection point where it seemed like Twisted was going to make up for, offset all the bad going on in the portfolio. And so I think people might have thought that would have been on more display in this quarter, which it still hasn't really taken that leap yet. It is, doing a lot of work, but Truly
Right.
and everything else is still kind of washing that out.
I mean,
I
it's the
think-
only thing growing, like really.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Jim Cook has always been a sandbagger. Like he's always undertalked his stock, and then Berwick came in, and it's been more. I think they're going back, and also it makes sense that there's going to be fewer innovations. I think that's a great thing. I know distributors are probably excited about that. Very thoughtful about what they're going to put out there. Maybe a twisted light variety pack in some markets that are developed. They're not going to go crazy on twisted flavors and like they did with Truly. And they're not chasing the dragon anymore. And I think that's probably a wise move. They're managing for sustained growth, and I think Twisted does have a lot of run room. Just like you reported, they only have 50% distribution, which is really low for that brand, I would have thought.
Harry, since I've been working for you, you've always said, Boston always manages to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Do you think they're still trying to work that magic, or?
Yeah, I think Twisted is that rabbit.
Yeah.
And what's after Twisted? We don't know, but Twisted still has a lot of one
womb. Lots of one womb.
They call it one womb. And it, like you said, Jordan, does it pick up all that Truly's lost? Not yet, but yet next year it will, right? Yeah. Because the comps will be easier. And I think next year will be a great year for Boston because they'll finally get through all this seltzer hangover. And, seltzer's losing space to FMBs, which is perfect for them because that's the FMB. When you're talking about FMBs, you're talking about Twisted.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have so much in place with partnerships between Pepsi. I mean, we'll see what happens there, but still Beam Suntory. And then they're getting deeper into spirits with Truly vodka, Dogfish Head canned cocktails now, Truly tequila. So I think there's still a lot of upside. And everything they've done over the past couple of years, it's just been tough for those to break through out of the seltzer mess.
Right.
Yeah, and the seltzer's getting better week to week. So like Harry said, as long as it gets less and less bad, and same with Sam Adams, it's getting less and less bad every week. But what, real quick, to the point of like going back to the core, like Twisted Tea, and I agree totally, Harry, like Twisted Tea is the next Twisted Tea, basically. At least for a year or two, and then hopefully some of the spaghetti they've furiously thrown at the wall with all the other things breaks through, or maybe it's something else. But so we've been doing this survey of everybody, just a quick 2024 gut check, and one of the things that I'm hearing from everybody, retailers, distributors, is that no, really, guys, this time I swear it's really real. We're gonna do some serious SKU rationalization. Now, we've heard that for a really long time, but it really seems to be a huge theme. So maybe we will start cleaning up all this long tail, and having a big, reliable brand like, Twisted is going to be an asset, even though, they'll have to defend themselves against Nasty Beast and all unprecedented amounts of new tea entrants, which certainly have never taken a bite out of them of any size before, but there's a first time for everything. So
right. Yeah. 2024 is going to be the year of tea. I mean, it already is kind of this year, but I think they're sitting pretty, honestly. I mean, gosh, even IPAs are down. Like it's tough out there if you're just relying on craft.
Yeah.
I thought it's interesting that golden ales are really the only category in craft that's growing. I just think people are looking for lighter options.
That's pretty much all Big Wave, Kona Big Wave.
Right. Kona Big Wave I think AB, they're putting a lot of resources behind that. That's going to be a big winner for next year. Speaking of AB, AB kind of has the same problem that Boston has, is that their fault. The drop in Bud Light sales has not been totally picked up by their other brands, but almost. I think Ultra is going to be their saving grace next year, and then they'll be cycling easier numbers. But so the big news this week, huge news really, is their 160 million, whatever the price is, hadn't been confirmed, but their deal with the UFC. And that is right up the wheelhouse. I think Modelo really benefited from being associated with UFC. I think it's a beer drinking demographic for sure, a hard beer drinking demographic. It's probably I would say, other than the NFL, it's probably the most valuable sponsorship for a big beer brand. And I wonder how much Modelo and Constellation just pissed off Dana White when they kind of pulled back when he slapped his wife on New Year's Eve last year. The guy looks like, I think I don't know Dana White, but he seems like the kind of guy that would hold a grudge about that.
Yeah.
And I think Modelo just pissed him off because the other thing is the money, obviously. I mean, AB can afford to pay that. And also it's global. So, Modelo can't do a global deal because they don't own the brand outside the United States. If they did, they would be benefiting Anheuser-Busch, who does own the brand. So for them to go have a global deal, they won't use Bud Light out of the United States. I'm sure it'll be Budweiser or Stella. But yeah, I think it's a great move for AB. I think it's a good move for UFC because they're trying to go more global, that they're trying to expand. And they're getting the usual trolls. Oh, now, boycott the UFC. Nobody's going to boycott the UFC.
There's no substitutability. So there's not going to be a boycott, right?
Yeah. Right.
And Dana White can say all the things that Brendan can say, but with way more conviction and a couple of F-bombs.
Right.
So there'll be no more two sides talking out of the mouth. And I think there'll be, right? Like he can say, hey, they do folds of honor. They take care of veteran families. So shut the F up and drink your Bud Light. And I think some people will be like, okay, we're going to do that,
Right. Honestly, I think they pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Things are so easy in retrospect, but I'm like, oh, of course they should. This is the path they should take.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more un-PC than UFC. There's nothing more. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more un-PC than the UFC.
Yeah, politically correct and all this bullshit. Really, a lot of people are kind of bucking up against anyway. I think it's a good property for them.
Yeah.
Jordan, do you watch UFC?
I don't. Just because most of the time you got to pay for it.
You're kind of cheap.
Well, also they've gotten so big. No, I'm not cheap. I'd rather be watching something else because they've gotten so big where a lot of their fights are on Saturdays during college football. And I mean, they still get eyeballs, which is very impressive.
Snob alert. We got a snob on the call, Jen. Well, I didn't realize that. We got a college man on the call.
Jordan, you're a snob because you watch college football. I don't understand that either.
I don't either.
Don't try and front that you went to college. We all know you went to college, Jordan.
Yeah. It is global because the reason those fights are on Saturday at 1:00 is because they're broadcasting from Abu Dhabi. So, I mean, a lot of it is global. And then going back to how important that partnership was, I mean, Modelo distanced itself in January and then just kind of picked right back up with Dana White kind of not doing anything about it. And just said, okay, we need to get back here. And then once the partnership was set to expire, we've heard that there were, some attempts to try and re-up it. So that was a big deal. And also, I don't know where Modelo goes with this, new money that they have in their budget because NFL's locked up. I mean, AB has pretty much all the major sports locked up. And Modelo now being the number one beer brand, it needs, you would think, it's still going to grow. But
yeah, NBA. I mean, you're right. It's funny because this is the exact strategy that August Busch III took when Miller Lite started growing in the 70s and 80s. I mean, he literally sat at a conference table. Back then he just had piles of books of every sports sponsorship in the United States, and he just went around with his executives, with Tony Ponturo, and he said, Women's Soccer League of Texas. Do we sponsor that? No, sponsor it. the High Ally tournament down in Miami. Do we sponsor it? No. Then sponsor it. He just went one by one and just did a scorched earth strategy to just get everything. And it worked. It worked then, and it'll probably work now. I don't know. Maybe not. Why are you asking me? Why are y'all asking me, Jen? Just kidding.
Well,
Y'all
I
didn't ask me.
think you have to define work too, right? Like, what does work mean? Does it mean that the whole of AB's portfolio does better, even if Bud Light doesn't return to the top dollar beers sales?
No, to me, work is getting Bud Light back to down 5%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Running down 5%. And if you really want to say if it works, then getting it to growth. I mean, I don't know if that's possible with given macro trends, but Modelo grew.
Yeah. Well,
Modelo came out of nowhere.
Also, I think it'll work without Bud Light necessarily growing too, because they just took that sponsorship from Modelo, which was obviously really important to that brand. So, just to even put a blow in your competitors, which we know ABI and Constellation have. That's something ABI has been working on for the past year or two. So
yeah,
longer than that. But with the,
I also heard that Brendan he flew to Chicago and asked the Sands brother he could buy the Fighting Spirit tagline. How much? Just kidding.
Harry, don't start rumors. Come on.
What's my job, Jen? What do you think we do all day?
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know what you do all day, Harry.
Jen and I had breakfast this week. Jordan, are you jealous?
Oh, yes. I forgot. Thank you for reminding me so I can tell you this story. So then we're sitting down. And of course, Kirby Lane has a very picturesque menu, right? They have LTOs and whatnot, pictures of eggs and delicious looking things. So Harry grabs his menu and he tells the waitress, "What's that?" He's like, "I want that." And then the joke, of course, became that he pointed to that and then pointed to his mouth like, It was. And what was it, Harry? What was the plate that you ordered?
Well, it wasn't listed on the menu. It only had a picture. It was like a swirly pancake, a cinnamon roll pancake. It was awesome. Freaking awesome. We shouldn't cuss.
It was like 5,000 grams of sugar.
Yeah, no, I'm still reeling from it. And it was 3 days ago.
Shock.
It was so good. But yeah. Me want that.
You're not alone, Harry. A lot of people point to the menu when they're ordering, or even like
2-year-olds.
When the menu's like behind them, they'll still say, "I'll take the number 5."
Yeah. Like, I'll take that. No, but he didn't have words for it, Jordan. He was just like that.
This. That's what Lenny does.
Yeah, babies.
This.
I like that Bonnie Herzog at Goldman Sachs. She always really covers the C stores well. She goes to NACS, which, by the way, we didn't go because we had other stuff, but I think we should go to NACS next year.
Really go to NACS.
Yeah.
We haven't been in a while, and it's only like the largest channel for beer. Like, we should definitely go.
And it's the most, it's kind of in focus with everybody. Everybody's chasing the C store, and they should. It's a great channel. But yeah, C-store promos leveling off. Seems like C-store operators. It's funny. It seems like they expected a big price increase, and then it didn't come. And I'm like, well, if they're expecting it, maybe the industry should just give it to them. But I have like 5 computers. I know, I can't get away. If I put one on silent, the other 3 still ring.
Well, shocker, there's still some reticence to give Bud Light shelf space, more shelf space. They're pretty big on Modelo Oro.
Can you put your mic closer? I can barely hear you.
They're pretty big on Modelo
Just pull
Oro.
pull it toward you. If it's not in camera sight, then it's
on the edge here. See? Okay, there. It's in camera sight, and I haven't moved.
Okay. All right. And then FIFCO had their meeting, and you guys, I saw that your boyfriend Ramon is retiring, Jen.
My boyfriend, what?
I think you always had a little crush on Ramon.
Okay. Maybe
Yeah.
like once upon a time I had a little one.
Okay.
Let's cut this in post, please.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see.
It's all
But
right. Bill
he's
doesn't
retired
listen.
now. He has a lot of time on his hands, Jen. Costa Rica's fun.
Well, guess what? I do not. I have no time on my hands.
That's true. Good.
And a husband and children that I love very much.
Oh,
BT
right.
dubs.
I always forget about that. All right. So yeah, FIFCO had their meeting. What were some of the highlights from the Costa Ricans?
Obviously, everybody's been coming for Seagram's space, and Seagram's isn't doing so hot in scans. So, they've got some new there. They're taking their Jamaican Me Happy flavor and turning that into a variety pack. And then they are doing a new Escapes Refreshers. Does that sound familiar? Which is, 5% ABV, which is higher ABV for them because they're normally 3. And, they crowdsourced everything. So that was a selling point too. And this is interesting. It's got real sugar and real fruit juice, right? So that was a huge selling point. They're like, we have sugar, which is pretty hilarious, right? It's the pendulum swinging the other way from, no sugar. So I thought that was interesting. And then the other big thing that stood out to me was, well, besides what I'm sure Jordan will talk about, was just having to shore up supply for Labatt Blue Light. Labatt Blue and Labatt Blue Light, because of course, especially with Bud Light, doing what it did, some of that went to Blue Light. And I think Blue Light has been up like double digits in scans recently. Not so for regular blue, but they're trying to find more supply.
If you're listening to this in upstate New York or in the Finger Lakes, then this applies to you. The rest of you, just don't worry about it.
Oh, Harry.
Refreshers are all the rage right now. I think that's going to be a big bet for most suppliers next year. Molson Coors has their Happy Thursday. Modelo is expanding the Agua Fresca, which is basically just a refresher. And so everyone's kind of turning away from bubbles right now.
Away from bubbles and like that mid calorie point. Like it's not 300 calories, but it's not 100 calories. It's more like, 160, 170 with a lot of flavor, 5% alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. More traditional F&B. Yeah.
Well, and then you have Bongo Fizz, which is just going the other way.
No, Harry, in its 2 markets, it's doing fantastic.
Okay. All right. I never bet against Yingling.
Don't do it.
I've never tried Bongo Fizz.
But we should drink it on the next pod. I'm gonna have them send us some Bongo Fizz.
All right.
And you can wear that shirt that you're wearing right now, Harry. And I can wear this shirt that I'm wearing. It's kind of tie-dye. Jordan, you got to get a little more bongo.
I'll go casual Hawaiian Friday.
Bongo Fizz.
Yes. Hawaiian Friday. It's a date.
All right.
The one more thing from the FIFCO meeting was they're pausing production of Big Deal Brewing, which was a partnership Labatt did with Barstool Sports Spitting Chicklets podcast, which is really popular. I think it's like the #1 podcast on NHL. And it had been doing, I think, decent. It was a top craft launch this year, and it just launched in a limited amount of markets last fall. So I don't know really what was behind the decision there. And they're still, in partnership with Barstool Sports as well as Spittin' Chicklets. So it wasn't like, that ended and they had to. So I don't really know what's going on there.
That is strange. The only thing I would add is that Barstool Sports, went through the ownership changes, and where El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, now owns the whole thing again. I don't know if there's any changes in strategy because of that.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I wish I could sell my company for $500 million and then somebody just give it back to me for $1. That'd be awesome.
Right?
Yeah. All right. And then the last thing that we'll just touch on is the FTC's filing against Total Wine and More Basically, it just looks like Total Wine is sandbagging. We should title this podcast "Sandbagging," sandbaggers and their friends.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So yeah, they're sandbagging that they don't want to give over. It sounds like invoice level information about the probe that the FTC is conducting against Southern Wine and Spirits. Total Wine wants to limit the amount of information because it sounds like to me, if you look at the filing, they don't want the FTC to get a bunch of information and say, well, hell, Total Wine needs to be investigated. So I think that's one. I mean, they say it's disruptive and it's just too much information as well. So at this point, we've got the FTC, the TTB, the IRS, all looking at Southern in particular, and then there's the industry in general. And one of the things that keeps coming up is category management. And well, two things, offering different pricing for larger retailers and then offering more category management services to larger retailers at the expense of smaller retailers. And, there's two federal laws that come into play there, the Robinson Crusoe Act, I keep calling it.
Robinson Patton, or
and then some other act. So, I'm the reason I keep hammering this is that, we may wake up in a couple of years and merchandising could be, say, illegal. And, it's not as much prevalent on the beer side because beer guys merchandise all off-premise stores regardless of size, meaning C stores and independents. Everybody gets merchandised. Nobody's just dropping the beer off on the curb. I think actually in one state they do that because it's illegal to merchandise. But anyway, and I don't know how that translates into the wine and spirit side. I think there is a lot of curb dropping for smaller accounts. But having said that, I think category management in general is going to be under a lot of scrutiny. Southern had that deal with Kroger a few years ago where they were going to set up a whole category management building with people in it, and it was all going to be funded by the alcohol industry. And
great idea.
Yeah,
I forgot the time about that. Oh my god, they sent out a press release and everything. Like, hey guys, isn't this great?
Yeah, isn't this great? And I was like, I'm no lawyer, but it just looks facially illegal, like on its face, illegal. So, so Southern's always been aggressive that way, and then you have kind of the home delivery apps that. It doesn't seem like people are looking at that real closely at the moment, but it could be a down the road. A point of contention is buying trade media, buying space on the app so that you're at the top. It's kind of like a slotting fee. It sounds like to me. Is it? I don't know.
It's a digital slotting fee. What else is it? Right? You're paying for placement, right? That's exactly. It's what you're doing, but
that's a big no-no. Even at the federal level.
Also with category management, I think what's happening with Bud Light, have people look into it, like thinking about the Yingling's New York Post article saying we should have more space. And if Bud Light retains this space, I don't know how they did it. I mean, kind of the implication of how they declined so much and lost so much share this year. How are they going to maintain the same space next year?
Relationships, Jordan. They just have great relationships. Yeah.
Just pointing out what was said. So,
but and just to go the other way, and totally, if I'm Dick Yingling, that's what I'm going to say for sure. But I mean, this is also a giant brand, still the top volumetric brand in the industry, right? So you don't just all of a sudden yank a ton of space away from it, right? Like, so I get the other side too, but yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I'd love to sit here and just bullshit with you two all day, but somebody has to get back to work to secure your collective futures.
Wait, I have two things real quick.
Oh, okay.
No, finish, and then I have two things before you cut us off.
Well, when I say back to work, I mean taking my dog on the one wheel for a ride before it rains again, and making myself a sandwich, and getting ready for YY to come to town.
Oh, you guys Y'all have been
Yeah.
seeing a lot of each other lately.
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time. He has really hard classes this semester, and so he likes to come here to study.
Oh,
Believe it or not, I'm not much of a distraction.
He's like, I didn't know you were there. Oh, I didn't see you there.
Yeah.
What kind of sandwich are you gonna make, Harry?
I have some leftover fried chicken, so little fried chicken, some jalapenos, a little mayonnaise, a slice of American cheese, and bada bing, bada boom, maybe some Fritos. I mean,
Yeah.
we're looking at health and wellness over here.
Just fried chicken in your veins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my two things are, one, y'all should check out the new John Gotti series on Netflix. It's
Oh yeah,
good.
I'm writing that down.
Yes. I forget what it's called, but
Getting Gotti or something.
yes. Yeah. It's good. I've only seen the first episode at the dentist. But well, you got to do something when they're drilling your teeth for the third time.
All right. Well, guys, I want to please have a great weekend. Hey, don't worry about business. Okay. Just think about your families, take some time off. I will have Monday's issue taken care of,
Yes.
maybe. And
Maybe.
and then we'll go from there. All right, guys. Well, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers.